Okay, so today you can see the topic is finding the square root and power function. So that is what we are going to learn. We are going to learn this two function, finding the square root and how to raise a number to another number in C++. So this is a very interesting topic. Today you are going to learn this. Now the question arises, what is square root? So in mathematics, now you have to understand this. In mathematics, what is a square root? In mathematics, a square root of a number x, you can see over there, in mathematics, a square root of a number x is a number y such that y square equal to x. That means when you multiply y with itself, you will definitely get x. In that case, y is the square root of the number x. In other words, a number y whose square is x. That means when you square this number y, you will always get x as its square. For example, 4 and minus 4 are square roots of 16. Why? Because 4 square is 16 and minus 4 square is also 16. What do I mean by square? 4 into 4, that is 16, and minus 4 square, that is also 16. So the square root of 16 is 4. That's the difference. I believe you can understand what is the meaning of square root. Okay, so here are a few examples of square root. So you can see the first example over there, square root of 9 is 3. In the next example, square root of 25 is 5. In the third example, square root of 144 is 12. Look at the fourth example, square root of 10 is 3.317. Now this is quite complicated. I believe you will slowly learn in mathematics how to find the square root of a number with decimal point. For this kind of numbers, finding the square root of 9, finding the square root of 25, these are quite simple because these are perfect squares. But when it comes to non-perfect squares, that is 10, you can see the square root is a number with decimal point. You are going to definitely learn that in mathematics, whereas we do not require so much in C++. When it comes to programming, this is already done for you. You just have to use it to make the computer find the square root of a number. Now the question arises, how do we find the square root in C++? Now look at this, what is written out here. To find the square root in C++, you need to use the sqrt function. Don't read these as square root function, just read it as sqrt function. For example, if you need to find the square root of 9 in C++, we can simply write what you can write. You can simply write cout sqrt 9. Followed by the semicolon. That is usual. You have already learned that. This will give you the output as 3 because square root of 9 is 3, because 3 into 3 makes 9. I believe you can understand the meaning of square root. But to use this function, you need to include the mat.h header file. So, in your program, along with iostream.h and conio.h, you have to also use mat.h. Sometimes, students get confused. Should I give it after iostream and conio, or should I give it before iostream or conio? You can give it in any order. Remember, the header files can be given in any order. You can always begin with conio.h, followed by iostream.h, and then mat.h. Similarly, you can begin with mat.h, followed by iostream, and followed by conio. So like that, in any order you can give. However, you have to write it in separate lines, and the syntax is exactly same as you had learned. That is, has include iostream.h. Similarly, has include conio.h. All those header files should be in angular bracket, that is less than and greater than. So here also with mat.h also you have to write it in the same way, that is has include with an angular bracket mat.h. Now this can be in any order. That is what I mean over there by in any order. That is any way you can write, whichever header files you can begin with. Okay, now we are going to see an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a program to input a number and find its square root. Now let's see that. Now here you can see the C++ screen, and we'll begin with the program which is going to find the square root of a number. The number will be given by the user, that is going to input through the keyboard, and the computer is going to find the square root of that number. So we'll begin with iostream.h, the usual, followed by has include conio.h. I believe you remember that the header files can be in any order, followed by mat.h. Now we begin with the mean. So void mean, followed by the usual clear screen, CLRSCR. And now I'll take two numbers, int a, or we can take float. Remember, it's always a very good policy to take the square root of a number in point. Why? The reason behind that is it is not necessary, that is, you are always going to find the square root of a number whose square root is an integer. It is not necessary. You can always give a number where the square root of that particular number is in point. So it is always suitable to take the variable as float type where you are going to store the square root of a number. It's always best to take both the variables, that is the number whose square root you want to find, and the square root itself to be of float type. However, according to the question, if it is given as integer, you have to take the variable through which you are going to input as integer. However, when it comes to finding the square root, it should always be, that particular variable should always be of float type. So we are for simplicity, we are going to take it as float. So float a comma b. So this float variables, I believe some of you must have forgotten that it's going to accept numbers with point. So now we are going to ask from the user, enter a number. So I'm going to give this message, enter a number. And now see in A, the usual stuff. And here we are going to find the square root, b equal to sqrt of A. So it's going to find the square root of A and store the number in B. So that is what it is going to do. Now we are going to display the square root. See out. Say I'll print a message, square root, say B, and followed by the usual get ch and the closing brace. Now let us run or execute this program. Okay, now you can see the first message that the computer gives you is enter a number. Let's give a number. Say for example 25, we give this. So here you can see the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, let me execute once again. We'll try out with a different number. Okay, let me put a number, say 36, and there square root of 36 is 6. Okay, now we'll give a number which is not a perfect square, that is whose square root will come in point. Let's see what happens. Say for example I input a number, say 12. This comes to as the square root of 12 is 3.464102. Quite precisely it's giving you must have seen that. So this is how we find the square root of a number. I believe you have understood this program. Simple. Remember the variable where you are storing it, you can see over there a thick cursor over there. So the variable where you are storing the square root, it should always be of float type. The variable a may be float or integer, depends upon the question, but where you are storing it after finding the square root, that should always be in point. It's always suitable because the square root of a number may be in point. It need not be a perfect square. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to check out the power function in C++. We are going to understand what is the power function in C++. So the power function computes the power of a number. What do I mean by that? The power function takes two arguments. Two arguments means in this case two numbers. The first number is called the base value and the second number is called the power value. So it takes two numbers, power value, base value and power value, and returns the power raised to the base value. So it will give back the second number to the power of first number. For example, now you can see, you can relate it with mathematics. In mathematics, x to the power y. X to the power y. So I have given an example also for you to understand. Say for example 2 is the base and 5 is the power. That means I am asking in mathematics you to multiply 2 5 times and give me the result. That is 2 into 2 into 2 into 2. 5 times multiplying 2, you get 32. So that is the meaning of power. In C++, you write that very simply. You simply write pow, POW, x comma y, where x is the base. That means this is the number where y will be raised up to. So for example, in the corresponding example for 2 to the power 5, how do we write? See out pow 2 comma 5. So what it is going to do is it's going to multiply 2 5 times and give you the answer. So that is how it's going to work. Now, even in this case, to use this function, you need to include the mat.h header file in your program along with iostream.h and conio.h. And need not to be said in any order. That is, you can have the mat.h at the beginning, followed by iostream.h or conio.h in any order it may be. It's still going to work. So here is an example where you're going to see a program to input two numbers and raise the second number to the power of first number. That is a to the power b, where a is the first number and b is the second number. So what it's going to do is whatever you give the number, it will always raise the second number to the power of first number. So we are going to check that program out. Okay, we'll begin over here. We are still using the same program. Remember the header file, the mat.h, it can be in any order. So we'll begin with two integers. Here also for safety you can take float, but even integers work. See, for example, I'll take a third variable c where I'm going to store the power. So cout enter two numbers. Let me do that. Enter two numbers. Now let me input cin a and b. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to write c equal to pow a to the power of b. That is how we write pow a comma b. That means b raised to the power of a. Now we are going to print the answer. Let me print the answer. Let me print this message answer. And here we are going to print c. Let's see what happens. Let me execute this program. Once again, Control and F9. So enter two numbers. Let me do something. I'll put 5 and 2. So 5 is A and 2 is B. So 5 to the power 2 is going to find it. So 5 to the power 2 means 5 into 5. That is 25. Multiply 5 2 times. So it's going to give you 25. You can see that answer. Once again, let me execute it and try out a different number. Let me give 2 and 5. That means 2 to the power of 5. That means 5 raised to the power of 2. That means multiply 2 5 times. So how much do we get? We get 32. So that is how we use the pow function. I believe all of you understood. But do not forget to include the mat.h whenever you require the sqrt function or pow function. If you do not require it, you don't need to use this particular header file. Even if you use, it's not a mistake, but no need of using it. It shows you understand the concept very clearly. Only when you require, use that particular header file. As usual, I'm going to give you a group of questions for you to solve it and post it as soon as possible. Thank you.